Yo, I see that I missed the first 8 seconds of my video. I'm going to keep it really short and sweet, I promise today. I just heard something that's disturbing to me and almost find it hard to believe. I knew ISIS had killed some people. They just shot some people in the street and uh, murdered them. And then Trump and his followers came out and rationalized how it was okay to shoot this lady in her car. And they tried to brainwash us, kind of like 1984, where, you know, you're told that something isn't what it looks like to you. Or like one of the Star Trek things where these are not the drones you need, and, someone talks to these uh, a Jedi talks to these stormtroopers and convince them that the the two droids are looking at who fit the description of who's missing are not the people, and their kind of weak mind is, you know, taken over by the Jedi, and they believe it. I kind of felt like that's what ICE has done to us when they're talking about immigrants, how they're the bad guys. Um, Never considering that our laws around immigration just really suck, and they're very much biased towards rich people. And like many things we do in this society, things are biased toward the rich, and the laws are bent for the rich and the powerful, like Trump. And we somehow convince ourselves that everything's okay. I don't really know how America got to that point. And I don't know how I've got to where it doesn't just make me crazy to see what's happening and that people are going along with it. And I can go on the other side of the equation too, the woke movement. Where someone say something that you think is true and that offends somebody, so therefore you're not supposed to say it because how they feel judges whether something should be said or not whether it's true. That is to me just as bad as on the right side telling us that no, this isn't murder, it's something else. Both sides to me seem like too far from the normal, reasonable human world that I grew up in, where things are simpler. We don't make them complex or distorted. We speak our truth and we tolerate other people speaking their truth. We try to do it with a little kindness, but we don't make new standards about conforming and say it's okay. Conforming to things that are obviously not okay. Trump becoming a tens of billionaire since he's been president. He couldn't do it alone, but now he's obviously doing it with bribes that are coming through cryptocurrency and probably just people outright giving him money to get stuff. They got the tech bros bowing down and worshiping him. We've got a world that's very out kilter. We ignore a debt and our responsibilities toward that debt. Bond market's kind of unraveling because the rest of the world isn't quite ready to go along with it. But the rest of the world, most of them have their own debt problems. It's a world unraveling not only on big issues like climate change and the climate pushing back against us humans, but it's unraveling on the level of common sense and basic morals. And somehow that's become the new normal. And we don't have any laws to, you know, social media promotes violence and disagreements and just being nasty. And yet we say, oh, that's social media. That's just the way it is. No, it isn't just the way it is. It's the way we've chosen to let it be. We've chosen this new world that we're living in, and we've chosen not to resist it. But I'm going to try to start saying something every day and pushing back. And I think we all have to push back against the nonsense. Let's just keep it simple, honest, and direct. Speak our truth with kindness to the best of our ability, but not so kind that nobody understands what the hell you're saying. Anyway, that's kind of my resolution for today, that we all need to just push back on the extremes on both sides. Wokeism is not okay with me. Magism is not okay with me. Uh, I've even been debating going to democratic socialism, but I also think before we take that big leap, maybe we need to fix capitalism, the basics, like don't allow monopolies, don't allow big business in elections, don't allow big money in elections. But I don't know if we have the will to do that, to just go back to a simpler time. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking the simpler time made more sense, that I'm just not flexible enough in my reasoning and not capable of understanding these great truths were now being revealed on both the left and the right. Totally opposite, but in some ways they're not the opposite because they're both asking us to go places that just defy my good sense. We've lost the ability to become outraged. 90 people have been killed by ICE. Immigrants. We are all immigrants. If you're not an American Indian, a native, you're an immigrant, or your parents were immigrants, or your grandparents. It's kind of like that's where we all came from. It's utter nonsense to believe otherwise. Only difference is now we've managed to make immigration laws that make no sense and only are only for the rich, which is kind of like what we do everything by. Everything is for the rich. Wealth inequality is for the rich. Anyway, I don't like the new world I'm living in, and I want to go back to just some basic common sense, kind of going down the middle of the road, not make everything complicated. Person gets shot, somebody ought to go to court, have a trial. It's not complicated. I don't get to judge whether it was murder or not, but a jury should get to judge when somebody's shot right out in the middle of the street and it looks like murder. There's enough of us to see it to say this looks like murder that there ought to at least be a trial. Talk it out in front of 12 ordinary people and say, was that person murdered? Was that reasonable to shoot her through the window? And was he really about to get run over? Like, how, what's the standard of about to get run over and you can shoot somebody? And why was he yelling at her in the first place? Anyway, someone ought to go to court. Someone ought to be put on trial, and it ought to be discussed among the peers, just like we've done to Trump somehow. And I don't quite understand how he had all these trials and been found guilty and nothing ever really seems to happen to him. I don't understand why we live in a world that a guy convicted of rape gets to run our country. That kind of stuff just doesn't make sense to me. I believe in our system and our country and the institutions we've set up. They're not perfect. There are humans involved, but it's a pretty damn good country. And we've made it way too complicated. Anyway, this is the Ancient Texan giving you some ancient ideas. Have a good one. Namaste. I love you, world. I love you, people. I love some just good old fashioned good people. This is the Ancient Texan. Namaste.